Hi, I'm Dr. Jarrod Spencer, sports psychologist, and I'm so excited to have you join me today. I want to be sharing with you a very important topic called recharge, how to rest and recover like a pro. It's very likely that you're just like everybody else, walking around tired, drained, wanting to recharge, but not exactly sure how to effectively do that. I mean, why is it that some people seem like they have a lot of energy, but you seem to be feeling drained? I want to help you to recharge your batteries, so to speak, to rest and relax in order to regain your strength, your energy. And the way that I'm going to share this with you today is I want to take pages out of the playbook of the many professional athletes and professional teams that I've served, and I want to take those pages and put them in your playbook. That over the years, I've helped athletes in the NHL, NFL, IndyCar, MLB, WNBA, NASCAR, it goes on and on and on. And I want to share with you, what are the pros doing to rest and recover more efficiently and more effectively. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit about the background of why are we drained? Why are we tired? What's going on with rest? And then get to very specific skills that you can utilize right away so that you might feel like the emotionally healthiest version of yourself. One of my favorite books of all time is written by a wonderful author named Malcolm Gladwell. The book's called Outliers, and in this book, Malcolm Gladwell really describes stories of individuals who did exceptional things. One of the stories that he shared in Outliers captured a simple concept called the 10,000 hour rule. Essentially, what he professed was that it takes 10,000 hours to develop mastery of a particular topic or skill, to become a master in a particular area. That 10,000 hour rule inadvertently was utilized by so many parents of youth athletes in particular, saying, if I just get my son or daughter to invest 10,000 hours in their sport sooner than anybody else, they'll be the best. But it actually backfired all across America. Why? Gladwell failed to write about a significant piece in the original study that he was citing. You see, yes, it is 10,000 hours, but according to the study, it is also about significant rest, hence the part he forgot to mention. More specifically, it was 10,000 hours along with 30,000 hours of sleep and 1,200 hours of specific intentional rest. So what we live in now is a culture society where too often we're just burning the candle at both ends, thinking that we're brighter than we really are, when the reality is we're burning out. In the book Rest, the author really professed so many wonderful aspects, including the study that I just mentioned, and other practical ways for you to rest. Essentially, the concept of this book, which is why you get more done when you work less. That sounds counterintuitive, counterproductive, is that we need to feel energized to be effective and efficient. The problem is, if I ask you directly, how do you feel? Right now, how do you feel? The answer you're most likely to give me is the one that most people use to describe how they feel, which is tired. Are you tired right now? Probably, maybe even exhausted. But it's not just a physical fatigue, it's really an emotional fatigue, isn't it? Your emotional health matters. And when it comes to rest, rest is largely about emotional energy management. Let me explain. You see, emotional energy is your psychological capacity to effectively deal with your immediate stressors. Right here, right now, how much capacity psychologically do you have? How effective are you in dealing with the immediate stressors? You can actually measure your emotional energy on a self-report scale of 0 to 100. If it's up in the 90s, that's like an A on a report card. Great job. You'll have a great workout. You'll feel very energetic, optimistic, positive. In the 80s is really good too. It's like a B. But in the 70s, it's like a C, and you can begin to feel your energy dwindling. You're getting fatigued. 70 is a really important number because that's a tipping point number. Anything below 70 and negative thinking creeps in for you, you begin to quickly unravel, getting pessimistic, maybe even toxic, counterproductive. If you were to rate your own emotional energy right now, scale of 0 to 100, what number would you give yourself? Because if you're like most people, the answer is right around 70. Most people, most of the time, as I speak across the country and around the world, will say, I'm always teetering on that tipping point line. What they really are saying is, I need more rest, recharge, and recovery to get my emotional energy higher. The problem is, what's draining you of your precious emotional energy right now? Think about it. Conversely, what restores your emotional energy? You see, if you can keep your emotional energy higher right now through better rest, recharge, and recovery, you're going to have a competitive advantage in every aspect of life, and particularly the business world. And did you know that the World Health Organization made burnout an official medical diagnosis just before the pandemic hit? Yes. And so if you're competing against everyone else who's around the tipping point number, battling burnout, feeling emotionally exhausted, and you're the one getting more rest, recharge, recovery, then you're going to have the advantage. The question is, are you resting more than you're outputting, or are you outputting more than you're resting? Mira Kirschenbaum wrote a wonderful book called The Emotional Energy Factor, subtitled The Secrets High Energy People Use to Beat Emotional Fatigue. Sounds interesting, right? In there's a wonderful quote that said, just as physical energy comes from diet, exercise, and rest, emotional energy comes from the ways you take care of yourself emotionally. Live in a way that makes you feel inspired, hopeful, self-confident, playful, loving, and in touch with what you care about most. Simply put, your self-care matters. Why? Because your nervous system is the part of you that's most impacted by your constant outputting with not enough rest, recharge, recovery. You see, your nervous system is based upon two parts. Sympathetic, which is the go, go, go part. It literally woke you up this morning. The parasympathetic is relax, relax, relax. It literally will put you to sleep tonight. Most people in our culture, society today have an overdeveloped sympathetic nervous system, an underdeveloped parasympathetic nervous system, constantly out of balance. When I talk to you today about rest, recharge, recovery, what I'm really talking to you about is how do we cultivate more parasympathetic experiences to bring greater balance to your nervous system. That's how we do it in the pros. Hence our title for today, Recharge, How to Rest and Recover Like a Pro. One key point as we go down this path of how to recover like a pro, when I talk about recovering, resting, and recharging, I am specifically saying to you that we would ideally do this without a phone. That too often what happens is people will curl up on the couch with the cell phone, scrolling for hours, and thus not feeling really rested. One reason why that is your brain is so locked in, dialed in, that your body might be resting, but you're still stimulated as you scroll through all these social media posts. Well, you might say, well, I like to watch shows. Well, be careful, because when we're talking about good recharge, even in a Newsweek article, Netflix CEO had a quote. The title of the Newsweek article says, Netflix declares war on sleep, its biggest competitor. Quote, you get a show or a movie you're really dying to watch, and you end up staying up late at night. So we are actually competing with sleep, Hastings said, adding triumphantly, and we're winning. What I'm trying to say to you is that rest, recharge, recovery ideally would be without an electronic in your hand. Of all the techniques I can teach you about how to rest, recharge, and recovery, and we're going to get to a bunch of specific ones, there is the most important factor, the number one factor in performance, that if you don't get this one piece, nothing else is going to fall into place. Let me be clear. And that number one factor in performance is sleep. And there are a few key points I want to make to you about sleep and how it can improve your rest, recharge, recovery. Now, as a speaker out there, when I ask people how many hours of sleep on average are you getting, most people are averaging 6 hours of sleep a night. When I ask how many hours of screen time are you logging on your phone, most people are averaging 6 hours of screen time. You see the problem there is that in the last decade or so, we are getting far more screen time, far less sleep, and therein lies the root of your fatigue. How do we improve it? Number one, Dr. Nicholas Hall, he was a neuropsychoimmunologist. He said every night there's a yawn that you experience. And an hour after that yawn is when you would ideally fall asleep. Once that yawn occurs for you, there's no more phones, no more electronics. You might just read a book for pleasure. Matthew Walker's book on sleep is my suggested one. That's outstanding. But read a book for pleasure and ramp it down. You hit the mark 3 consistent nights in a row, fall asleep the same time, wake up the same time, then you feel best. It's literally why Thursdays is the most productive day in America. People feel the best on Thursdays and Fridays because we woke up the same time Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, went to bed the same time Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and thus we felt great. Once we throw our sleep off on the weekends, we get back in this vicious cycle. So pay attention to your yawn, no electronics, hit your mark 3 consistent nights in a row, and you'll feel rested. If you can, take a nap. And many places around the world will take a siesta midday. What do you need to know? 8 hours after you wake up is the ideal time to nap, and you should take a 26-minute nap or less, according to a NASA study. If you want to go long, go 90 minutes. Never go in between 26 or 90s or you'll wake up feeling worse. A little secret I learned in the pros, nappuccino. Drink a coffee, take a nap, you wake up 20, 30 minutes later, the caffeine kicks in, you get the benefits of the nap, and you feel doubly ready to go. Regarding naps, you might not know this, but in nearly all professional sports, professional athletes nap every day. Most professional sports in season, for example, you're at the arena, at the stadium, at the training facility, 8 o'clock in the morning. You're usually out of there by 1 or 2 o'clock on a non-game day. And everyone goes home, they take a nap. Then they get up and cook a little dinner. If there's a game, you might go and have some early morning workouts. But every game day, everyone is napping. Everyone from the equipment manager to the chef, to the sports psychologist, to the players, everyone is napping because everyone knows that we need to be at our best at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. And the way to do that is significant naps. If you need a little help falling asleep, the product that I have learned from the pros that I endorse the most, in fact, I'm actually now on their board of advisors, SOM, S-O-M sleep drink, kicks in within 20, 30 minutes, usually stays in your system about 6 hours. That's the product that I found to help when people after a game are saying, I can't fall asleep. I got to shut it down. My circadian rhythm is thrown off. I'm too fired up. You may find yourself in that situation. SOM, that's the best one I know of. And lastly, when it comes to sleep, is this. You may not like this, but this is the truth. Never, ever, 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 ever have your cell phone in your bed with you again. Your cell phone, as you know, the blue light is blocking the melatonin that your body's trying to release to fall asleep. So most people, 90% of the people that I survey say they're lying in bed at night feeling tired, but they can't fall asleep, but their brains are stimulated by looking at their phone. Just charge your phone on your dresser, somewhere else in the master bedroom or your bedroom, and just somewhere where you have to actually get up out of bed. When you experience the yawn, if you get rid of the phone, you'll fall asleep so much better. Again, sleep is the number one factor in performance. And of the many techniques I'm going to teach you now, specific techniques of how to rest, recharge, and recover like a pro, none of it really matters a whole lot if you're not first taking care of sleep. One of the current trends in professional athletics that is now coming more increasingly into pop culture is the impact of a cold tub. We know that cold exposure does wonderful things physiologically. Now, of course, inflammation on joints is a big factor why many athletes do it. But we also now have research in psychology that shows that it's actually very effective in treatment of depression. We also know that there's cold shock proteins in the liver that get released when your body finds itself in a unique cold environment, that so cold that you would die if you stayed there. So you can't. So the body releases these cold shock proteins. What I'm saying to you is go to Tractor Supply, that's where I went, or any store like that, and you can purchase a trough. I got one for $130 at Tractor Supply. It's in the backyard. Fill it up. And for much of the year, that water is going to remain pretty cold, in the 40s or 50s, maybe the low 60s in the summertime. But my point is, if you just immerse yourself in the cold tub, not only is it physiologically going to help with your rest, recharge, recovery, it's also mentally a good time of meditation. Again, don't have your phone in there. Keep your phone somewhere else. Just allow yourself to breathe and relax and to think. But cold tubbing, well, especially when combined with hot tubbing, that's the next level. Many athletes have been doing hot tubs, but cold tubbing is something that I highly encourage every day. I would always walk into the athletic trainer's room and I would see a Hypervolt Theragun there. I would take the gun and I would massage my muscles with it. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. These type of tools have become more pop culture, more accepted. And what I found is that every pro athlete has one of these guns, and they will be massaging themselves in the evenings on the couch, watching some television, watching some Netflix, watching some Hulu, watching some Disney Plus. They'll be using the gun to hit a muscle or two and really just massage out that stiffness. Do you have one? Because eventually I did buy one. And I found that if I'm the passenger in the car on a car trip, I love to bring the Hypervolt and just massage a part of the body. Or if I'm done exercising and I can utilize it, it's such an effective way to bring blood flow to a particular area of the body and consequently increase healing faster. I had a little sciatic pain. I said to our trainer there, can I borrow one of the TENS units? You might know it a little bit more as electric stim kits. And he graciously allowed me to borrow. And I started looking into this. Well, maybe I should get one of these on my own. He said, actually, I know of a particular brand, a TENS unit that actually is very affordable and something you might look into. I ended up buying the Bellevue dual channel TENS EMS unit. It's actually a muscle stimulator for pain relief, and I got it off Amazon. It's been outstanding. Cost is $36, and I really have become a fan. I can put the 4 different pads on a particular muscle of my neck or my low back, and I can put the little controller, which is super small. It's about the size of half of a phone, in my pocket. And oftentimes I'll just turn it on and let it run for 30 minutes, and then it shuts off. And then I'll turn it on a little bit later in the day and it shuts off. And the point being that after doing this for a day or two, I significantly notice that whatever pulled muscle that I have, it's dramatically is healed faster. So can you maybe get a little TENS unit for $36? Could you utilize that more frequently? Because if you can, you're going to recover a lot faster, like a pro. Ouch. That really hurt. I was stepping on the hard white plastic nodules on the flat black mat with my bare feet. I didn't like it at first, but I realized this is one of the techniques that the pro athletes are using, so I should probably utilize it too. I talked to our strength and conditioning coach more about it, and he said, Jarrod, acupressure is really, really beneficial. It's part of the activation phase of the pre-warm-up before an athlete actually gets out there to practice or compete. And so I actually bought the Pro Source Fit acupressure mat and pillow set on Amazon, $22, and I love it. I take my shoes off and I oftentimes step on the hard plastic white nodules before and even during a workout at home in our home gym. And what I found is that it actually does help a lot of healing. You see, the bottom of your feet have a lot of nerve endings. And if you're into reflexology, you would actually understand the complexity of what I'm saying and how the bottom of your feet are almost like maps of your whole body. And by pushing in certain areas, it corresponds with certain parts of your body. And so by stimulating certain areas of your feet through acupressure, you can actually bring healing to certain parts of your body. Thus, the acupressure mat is one of the best things out there. You could even lie on the mat on your back and use the neck pillow as well. You might find it a little bit uncomfortable at first, as one professional hockey player shared with me. He then said, but eventually, Jarrod, I got, a minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and unbelievable benefits have come from it. Maybe it's time for you to try a little bit of acupressure. You've seen it. Why is that person wearing a band around their wrist? It looks like a watch band, only there's no watch. It's not exactly where the watch would be on the wrist. It's up a little bit higher. So what exactly is that? Well, it's the Whoop band. And Whoop is a wonderful company that it's a biofeedback device. Many pro athletes are wearing this on their wrist. It gives them a lot of data points on a lot of different things physiologically, but one of the most important is actually sleep. And of all the devices out there, like Fitbit, which is wonderful, Whoop seems to be at the next level, maybe the highest level, and the one that pro athletes seem to endorse the most. I believe in the Whoop. In fact, I was sitting on the bench of a professional lacrosse game, watching pregame warm-up, talking with an athlete. And I said to him, what have you learned from your Whoop? He said, interesting, Jarrod, I actually learned that one drink of alcohol has a significant negative impact on my sleep. He said, I would have known that if I didn't track my Whoop so carefully, but being an injured athlete, I don't want to be here. I want to be out there, and I want to do everything I possibly can to get from here to there, back on to the field. So I've realized I'm not going to drink. I want my sleep to be even better. I know that how important that is for rest, recharge, recovery. So my question for you is this: what biofeedback device are you utilizing, particularly regarding your sleep? And if you're not using something like that, you might consider Whoop. That it might be something that really can help elevate your recovery to a whole new level. In many places around the world, China, India, Russia, you'll notice that young athletes are really taught the importance of deep breathing and how important breathing is to getting oxygen into our muscles, and how, of course, that leads to all kinds of health and healing and high performance. Sadly, in America, I've noticed that we don't really talk a whole lot about breathing. In fact, we don't really teach our youth the importance of deep breathing. A few years ago, I was working with a professional athlete in India, and I was amazed at actually what he was teaching me about breathing and how it's become such an integral part of the athletic training process. I started digging a little deeper, and I came across a book that one of the professional athletes on a team I was serving was utilizing. He was reading this book and had found that he actually had given it to a few other people, and now the book began to sweep across the whole team. The book I'm speaking to you about right now is called The Oxygen Advantage: Simple, Scientifically Proven Breathing Techniques to Help You Become Healthier, Faster, and Fitter. This book is a must-read for you because the more you can improve your breathing and understand the neuroscience behind it, you would be amazed at how much more effectively you recover. And particularly after a workout, I worked with one Ivy League team, and I remember at the end of practice, we had everyone just lie down, rest, recover, and slow down your breathing. In just 10 minutes of parasympathetic nervous system activity at the end of practice with slow, deep breathing, everyone got up after that practice and immediately said, I feel so much better. I feel like I just recovered so much quicker. I mean, are you doing this kind of stuff at the end of your workouts? Because just a few minutes of deep breathing and maybe applying some of the techniques from the Oxygen Advantage could dramatically increase your recovery. Here you go, Jarrod. Here's your new slides. These sandals. What are these? Oh, these are the new flip-flops that everyone on the team is utilizing. Ophos. What's that? Well, it's a newer company that's putting out a product that is really focused on recovery. I, of course, tried my new slides and loved them. It just felt like I was walking on clouds. And I realized that, wow, there's a difference here. And so if you're on your feet all day long, you feel an emotional drain from this, you might need a product on your feet that could actually help you with your recovery. And in this professional sports context, this team I was serving, having these kind of slides made a significant difference. I see guys walking around with them all the time. After your practice, after your workout, like, what are you walking around in? Because if you can have a little bit of a better product on your feet, Ophos, I think you could definitely find that your muscles of your ankles and lower legs, your calves, your upper legs, your thighs, quads, your lower back, I really think taking some of that pressure off there can make a big difference for you. About a decade ago, I was working in San Diego. I met a trainer from the MLB who told me, Jarrod, I do not work with any athletes until they start foam rolling first. We foam roll before everything. Fast forward to today, and what I notice is that every professional athlete, before they do anything, foam rolls. We call it rolling out. Go roll out. Well, how long are we doing that for? Minimally 5 minutes, sometimes 10, 15, 20 minutes. But the more you can foam roll, the better. You've seen those long, solid foam rollers. They're maybe sometimes 2 or 3 feet long. Oftentimes they're the color black, and they're hard. They're not very soft like a pool noodle would be. They're harder. And as you roll out your hips or your back, your quads, it's really amazing how that technique can bring a lot of blood flow to that specific part of your body that's a little bit tough to reach and a little bit hard to get to. Do you have a foam roller? Hopefully the answer is yes. How often, how many minutes a day are you utilizing it? Because at the beginning and the end of every workout, this is what all the professional athletes are doing. Hello Fresh, or as I affectionately nicknamed it to my wife, Goodbye Rotten. What am I talking about? HelloFresh is actually one of the many companies that now exist where you can actually have a really good meal prepared with ingredients sent to your home. You just have to cook it up. You have to follow the recipe. I learned about this through a particular pro athlete I was working with, and he said to me, Jarrod, this stuff is awesome. And we only can put the best ingredients into our bodies. It's hard sometimes to go to the store, to get everything, to try different recipes, to make it all work. I don't have that kind of time. He said, but I schedule it so that when I'm at my apartment, we're not on the road, I get a Hello Fresh, and I actually really enjoy making it, he said. He went on to say that it's become a hobby for he and his fiance to really enjoy the preparation of the food together. As a psychologist, the current trend is not necessarily about the brain, but more about the gut. We know that how you eat dramatically impacts how you feel. That's not rocket science, but what we are understanding is that there's a lot more going on physiologically in your digestive system that dramatically impacts how you feel. For example, a lot more serotonin, the happiness drug, in the gut than we realized. Simply put, what I'm trying to say to you is to recover like a pro, you need to eat like a pro. You need to put really good, high quality ingredients in your body. And if you're not a chef, if you're not interested in that kind of shopping, then you probably want to try a product like Hello Fresh, where it's already sent to you. All you've got to do is follow the instructions and cook it up. Something like that can make a huge difference on how you feel. You ever get a cramp in a muscle and it hurts bad? I mean, you think you're hydrated enough, but for some reason, maybe not enough. Oftentimes what's going on is something about electrolytes. One of the things I learned working in professional athletics is that electrolytes plays a very, very big deal. And there are a lot of different companies out there for electrolytes, but there's a few that I personally like. My favorite electrolyte company is BioSteel. Why? The nutritionist that I respect the most said that this product was the best that she's seen out there, and I trust her the most. She's one of the best in the business. And I love their flavors. So BioSteel is one of my favorite electrolytes that I utilize. I would watch athletes take an individual serving and put it in a bottle of water, go out and have an intense practice, come back, go through all the recovery stuff, and have another BioSteel, that they would have two for a really hard sweat. I would say to you that if you're actually out there really sweating, you really want to pay attention, not just hydration through water, but even adding electrolytes. Liquid IV is another fantastic company out there. And I personally really got tremendous benefit from Nuun, N-U-U-N. I was once on the island of Antigua filming for NordicTrack treadmills. Their program's called iFit. And I was struggling one afternoon in the hot sun, my second filming shoot of the day. I was dehydrated and I wasn't able to pull it together quick enough. One of the producers on the hike with us said, "Jarrod, here's some Nuun, put this in your water, drink this." I actually felt a significant improvement from that almost right away. And so I believe that you too might not be utilizing electrolytes to the level that you could be, should be. I would highly encourage you, one, talk with a sports nutritionist about this, but also really look into these products, BioSteel, Liquid IV, and Nuun, and start trying it, because electrolytes matter for recovery. Are you hungry? What do you reach for when you need a snack? Just a little something. Well, a lot of times athletes are saying, well, I want something with protein, more protein, more protein. Well, there's a lot of protein bars out there, and how do you know which one is the best? Again, the sports nutritionist that I respect the most introduced to one team I was serving Power Crunch. You see, there was a bit of a fueling station there, and I know that whatever goes on that fueling station, it had to pass through her filter, and what passed through her filter was Power Crunch protein bars. The triple chocolate in particular is my favorite, and I found that they're really, really good because they're not heavy. It's almost like eating a Kit Kat. It's very light and very wafery in its texture. And so Power Crunch has about a dozen flavors. You can get them at most supermarkets out there. When I introduced this to our family, everyone in the family loved it. In fact, in the drawer in the kitchen, we've got multiple different Power Crunch boxes there so the kids can just grab them and go. At my office, I've got a variety pack in my office as well, that when I just need a little something because I'm hungry, I want something to help me recover a little bit from this hunger that I have, I'm going Power Crunch. And I believe that it would be something that you could eat after a workout, maybe before a game, that's not really going to sit in your stomach, but it's actually going to be beneficial for you. Just a small little technique I learned from the pros, trying to put that page in your playbook. Professional games in the evening typically start around 7 p.m., which means all the players and staff have to arrive by 5 p.m. I walked into one particular venue where I was working, and I heard Danny Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T's, piano music blaring through the locker room area. I chuckled and smiled. Earlier that day, I had met with the whole team, and of all the ways I tried to help them to manage stress and anxiety, I taught them that listening to relaxing piano music up until about an hour before competition helps keep the nerves calm, helps keep the parasympathetic engaged, and thus one could actually conserve emotional energy. The captain of the team in this particular scenario walked up to me and said, "Jarrod, do you like it?" I said, "I love it. This is great." He said, "One problem. We voted that we can only listen to this stuff up until an hour and a half before the game." I said, "I'm okay with it. I'm just so glad you guys are keeping your parasympathetic nervous system engaged here, and you'll have more energy in the tank." Ironically, that night, it was a very close game that we won by 1 goal. I think it's a really telling example of how you too need to conserve your emotional energy by listening to music that pushes your brain into a parasympathetic state. Relaxing piano music with no lyrics is what I'm suggesting. Danny Wright is an artist that I particularly like because you have no connotation with him other than what I'm sharing with you now. So if you can listen to Danny, it would just be an opportunity for you to benefit from this background music without thinking. When there's lyrics, you start to think, and we don't want that. We just want it to help calm you down. Think of a spa or a fancy restaurant. They utilize this music, even in an ER that I once worked in, utilize this music to keep people calm. If you don't yet have a playlist of relaxing music, I'm really encouraging you to check this out. Nearly every athlete I work with has relaxing piano music that they utilize to keep calm. And then when it's time to switch, they put on their music, gets them fired up, and they have more emotional energy in the tank. That's what I want for you. Really? Essential oils? Aromatherapy? He utilizes them? Wow, I never realized that. So I asked him, "Tell me more about what you're using, why you're using it, how you're using that. Why does this help you?" He went on to explain how the essential oils play a significant role in his performance and helps to impact his emotions. There are a lot of essential oils out there, and maybe too many for you to start with. But what I've learned as I took the page out of his playbook and put in my own is simply this. You probably want to have some peppermint, and you probably want to have some lavender. Why? Peppermint is essential oil that tends to help us be more stimulated, a little bit more alert, attentive. So if one was going to go work out, or if one's in the morning, they're trying to get themselves out the door, you might put a little peppermint on your skin. And that little bit where you might smell it, you might breathe it in, could actually help stimulate the brain. Conversely, at nighttime, you might use a little lavender, just a little bit, a little touch of that on your skin somewhere where you could experience it. actually has a significant benefit in calming you down, activating the parasympathetic. Peppermint for the sympathetic, lavender for the parasympathetic. If you haven't tried it yet, here's your challenge. Go online and just get a small bottle of each of those two essential oils, and you'll be surprised. A lot of times our culture society uses caffeine in the morning to stimulate us and a depressant at night to put us to sleep. What if you broke that cycle? What if you used peppermint essential oil and lavender essential oil? Seems to me like a healthier alternative. Your issues get stored in your tissues. What I'm saying to you is that your emotional stress finds the weakest part of your body and tends to harbor there. It tends to amplify the pain signals, leaving you feeling more aware of that body part. We've got to work out that tension. And one of the most effective ways we do that in pro sports is through a massage therapist. Every team has a massage therapist. Every individual has a massage therapist that they'd like to go to if they're not specifically getting the massages from the massage therapist. One team had 3 massage therapists that I know of on staff. And massage therapists travel with the teams. This is how important it is. We've got to get deep inside the muscle and release the tension that's there. When I get up off the massage table, I feel so much more relaxed. It's hard to even imagine how much we actually store in our body emotionally. Can you release that tension? Who is your massage therapist? Who do you go to regularly? And if you might not be able to afford it regularly, here's one trick I learned. Massage therapy schools are nearly everywhere. And those students actually need to log a certain number of hours before they're able to graduate. What do they need to do? They need people to massage. So if you contact that school, they'll oftentimes have a clinic there where maybe for $25 you could pay and go get a massage by somebody who's very skilled, very much developing, very motivated, and you can get that affordably. But my point to you is this: massage is not just a luxury that we do once in a while. In pro sports, massage is a daily process, at least weekly process that everyone's getting to constantly keep the issues out of their tissues. Michael Phelps. Do you remember those images of him in the Olympics with all those circular red marks on his back? What was that? I thought to myself. I mean, there's 5, 10, 15, 20 of these marks all over his back. What happened? How did they get there? Do you know the answer? Cupping. Cupping has become a major technique among professional athletes. And the idea of cupping is that it's oftentimes done by massage therapists. It's a little plastic cup that actually has some heat in there. It's literally kind of pulling out some of the toxicity from a particular muscle area that it's focusing on. So many athletes are doing this now that it's become more commonplace. Recently, I was at a world team trials in a sport in Newark, New Jersey, and so many of the athletes there had cupping marks on their back. Now, of course, at that level, you're trying to make the world team. You want to do everything you possibly can to have every advantage possible, and you need your muscles to be firing at the optimal, efficient level. So, for you, have you ever tried cupping before? Because I got to tell you, when I finally did, man, I noticed a difference. It really elevated. I was getting a massage, and as part of the massage, the cupping was part of it. I just felt like it took it to a next level. If you haven't tried cupping yet, give it a shot. Cupping is one of the best things I see professional athletes do. Tom Brady. Man, how did he do it? How did he play all those years? I mean, up until his 40s, the guy was still electrifying stadiums and performing at the best. Well, if you talk to Tom and you read his books and watch some of his interviews and podcasts, things like that, you would learn a little bit about a concept called plasticity. You'd also learn a little bit about that Tom Brady wasn't a super fan of lifting weights. So what did he do? Bands. Have you ever seen those bands that people use that they'll stretch with? TheraBands. And they come in different colors, which sometimes is reflective of the different intensity that they have. Some are harder, some are easier to utilize. Brady, like many other people, would work out using these bands. I ordered a set of them. They're actually pretty inexpensive. You know, you might be able to get several different intensities of bands for under $10 online, but you should probably have them because warming up your muscles using the different bands is a really, really effective way to not just tax the joints the way that sometimes lifting weights would do, but you can have great strength and great muscle pliability by working out with the bands. I know some people may say, no, I want to do what I always do. I want to run. I want to lift. Okay, that's fine. But maybe we could take a page out of Tom Brady's playbook, and maybe you might consider really investing in some bands and doing some of the band work. You might be surprised at how it enables you to get stronger, but also feel a little bit better, a little easier on the joints. And of course, when we talk about longevity, that's usually where most athletes end up fatiguing out first or injuring out first. So it worked for Brady. Maybe it could work for you too. Really? She's in our neighborhood, our area? And she worked for the professional football team? I'm sorry, did you say she's a flexibility coach? What exactly did she do? Well, she would really not just stretch out the players in a traditional sense, but she had advanced level flexibility skills so that people could really move in a way that was far more efficient. That when people had a particular injury, that she would kind of stretch them out, understanding the complexities of the muscles and how they all interact together to get them more limber. Okay, cool. Let me check her out. So, Intrinsic Health Systems, Susan Bianchi. That's my flexibility coach. And I love to meet with Susan whenever I have a particular pain or an issue where I just feel like, gosh, I don't know why my shoulder, for example, is so stiff. She's got a way of just working out that pain in such a unique way. Who's your flexibility coach? Or better yet, how is your flexibility? You see, too often times, we don't really focus enough on flexibility, but it really matters a lot. And I really admire in different cultures and traditions when I see somebody who might appear to be much older. Maybe they're 70 or 80 years old and yet got flexibility like a cat. They're able to do yoga and find themselves in positions that are just difficult for me sometimes to think like, how could I even get there? So Susan Bianchi and flexibility is a big deal. In fact, she even utilized a technique called mashing. Have you ever heard of this before? She'll put like a walker, a lie on a mat. She'll put a walker over top of me and then massage with her feet. So she's pushing really hard on my back, on my hamstrings, calves, things like that. The feet can be stronger than the hands. And that type of deep pressure in there goes a long way at releasing tension in the body. And so be open to this possibility of flexibility and come in at it from a little bit of a different angle. And maybe you'll check out Susan Bianchi's Intrinsic Health Systems. And maybe since it worked for the professional football team, and I'm saying it works for me, maybe somebody like her could work for you too. Steph Curry. Yeah, he's one of the greatest basketball players out there, that's for sure. He's also one of the biggest advocates for a technique called floating. In fact, there's even a commercial made about him and floating. YouTube it, you'll see it. What's floating? Floating is one of the best recovery techniques that you could ever possibly do. Essentially, I go to a place called Meta Relaxation Company, and I go there and there's a private room. I turn off the lights. I get in a tub. It's an oversized bathtub, maybe 8 inches of water, a lot of Epsom salts, tons of Epsom salts. So you're going to float. I put earplugs in so I can't hear anything. Of course, with the lights off, I can't see anything. And the air temperature and the water temperature are about the same. So you don't really notice much of a difference between your body being in or out of the water in terms of hot or cold. The better you relax with your arms spread to your left and to your right, the more you relax, the better you float. Well, how do you relax? Well, that, my friend, is the battle of your mind. You see, as you can think more calmly, as you can quiet your mind a little bit more, you can begin to really let go of tension and float a lot better. Admittedly, for the first 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, I find my monkey mind, that's a term used to describe that fanatic kind of thought process that's going on of random things flashing through our minds. But eventually, as that calms down, I can really get still and get quiet. It's very meditative, quite frankly. In fact, I realize that, gosh, as I lie there, not able to see anything or really feel much or hear much, that who I am to a large degree is this consciousness, this thoughts that I have, and that if I can control that and relax that more, my body has a huge benefit from it. So I use meditation in different areas of my life. Walking meditation, for example, is one that I really enjoy. But floating is another great form of meditation that I really like because there's a physiological immediate benefit from it. Have you done it? Well, Steph Curry seems to like it, and I'm a big fan of it. Maybe it's a page out of that playbook of Steph Curry's that we can put in yours. Look up some place nearby for you today, and you might be pleasantly surprised at how you can recover much more effectively. Meditation. One athlete in particular came up to me and said, "I can't get my anxious mind to stop." I explained to him that anxiety is when your thoughts keep going forward. Depression is when your thoughts go too far in the past. The place the mind is safest is right here, right now, in this moment. He said, "I know, Jarrod, but I just can't quite get my mind to slow down." He's a very intelligent young man, and I highly encouraged him meditation. I said to him, the first time I learned mindfulness meditation, we sat crisscross applesauce with our back against the wall, and man, 5 minutes seemed like an eternity. But eventually, 20 minutes went by so quickly, I didn't want it to end. Do you meditate? Is there a time each day where you pause, sit down, stop? Because it really can go a long way. In particular, I'm a big fan of sitting outside in nature and meditating. Again, simple concept but profound in application. Give it a shot just for a few minutes. You can either do meditation focused on a single word, or you can do meditation focused on like a broader awareness of whatever comes to mind or whatever is going on around you. Lots of different forms of meditation, but I'm really encouraging you to put that tool in your mental toolbox. Grounding? What's grounding? Explain to me that, the bottom of our feet has a lot of sensitivity. And when we're connected directly to the earth, that's more the way that we were created to be. He said, "Do you like walking on the beach?" I said, "Sure." He said, "You ever walk around in the green grass in the summertime, just laying?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "The more that your body, your skin is directly connected to the earth," he said, "there's some type of electromagnetic wave, some energy that's kind of moving through us a lot more easily than when we have our shoes on and our socks on." I said, "I don't really understand the science completely behind it." He said, "Neither do I." But he said, "Does it make sense to you?" I said, "It does." So I started being intentional about getting up in the morning and walking around barefoot through the backyard, just kind of admiring nature. And it's a lot easier for me to do in the summertime when it's warm. It's a little bit harder when it's really cold in the wintertime. But I found incredible benefit from grounding. Just the idea of connecting my body to earth. And when I did that and do that, I feel more relaxed. Do you like to go to the beach and lie on the beach? Yeah. Do you like to take walks on the beach? Yeah. And it's kind of that concept there that somehow, some way, that more we're connected directly to nature, the better off we are. And I believe that's an important technique that you might experiment with as well. Check out grounding, kick off your shoes, and just go walk in the grass or in the sand or the dirt or wherever it may be and really connect with earth. It's very relaxing. Solitude. It's one of the best ways you can relax. Too often in this busy world, people are always coming at you. They're wanting to talk with you, engage with you, ask you questions. They might be snapping you a bunch of messages a day, trying to make the streak continue. You might be getting text messages and phone calls. And my point to you is one of the best ways for you to recharge is solitude. Getting away in nature, pulling away. One of my favorite examples of this, not in pro sports, but in general in life, is the story of a great man. He once fed thousands of people and had all these people saying to him, "Jesus, Jesus, can I talk to you?" And he basically helped them, but then he pushed off in a boat, went to the other side of the lake, went up in the mountains, and just went up there and prayed by himself. You see, he knew the concept of rest, recharge, and recovery, and it's well documented that he would do this, that he would serve others, help others, but then get away by himself in solitude. What do you do for your solitude? Because the reality is that even when you do try to get away, you're bringing your phone with you, and now everyone's still reaching out to you. Leave it behind. Take an afternoon for yourself. Get to a spot where you can literally just be by yourself in solitude, in nature, maybe ideally. And I promise you, there's incredible recharge that can occur when you just put the world on pause and just drift off by yourself for a little bit. Are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? Because you see, it's very important you know introverts recharge differently than extroverts. I once worked with a pro athlete who was an extrovert. When he wanted to recharge, he would say, "It's Friday night, I want to have a lot of people over," and he would entertain them and talk with them and hang with them, and they play games together, and it was fun. It was energizing. And at the end of the night, he would feel so much more alive. You see, as an extrovert, he wanted to recharge around people. I also know of an introvert who would say the direct opposite. She would say, "People coming over? No, maybe a couple for a little while, but then I want to be by myself. I want to be curled up in my bed with a book and have everyone just leave me alone." That introverts recharge by being away from people, extroverts recharge by being with people. Which are you, and how can you develop recharge practices to benefit whichever style that you are? Now, personally, I'm 51% introverted, according to a survey I took, and 49% extroverted. So I kind of struggle. I want to be with people some of the time, but then I want to be by myself some of the time. And I'm constantly kind of struggling with that balance. Now, nobody's either 100% one way or the other. So it might be 70-30, 60-40, but think about that concept. Where are you at on that scale? And what do you need to recharge properly? Let it flow and let it go. Catharsis. It's a fancy term that means the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. One of the best techniques in pro sports is having that ability to just vent, to have an outlet to let out tension. That's what I do as a sports psychologist as I float around these teams and work with the individual athletes, that I'm there to help them have a safe place where they can just let it flow and let it go. Knowing that it's a legally protected conversation, knowing that they can share things with me and I can help them solve and resolve it. Now, why is that important? Albert Einstein explains it. He once said, a problem cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness for which it was created. That essentially, you have created your problems largely in your own mind. And we've got to meet with other people to get outside perspective. I'm not blaming you, saying you created your problems and they're all your fault. I mean, horrible things happen to people all the time. But what I am saying to you is this. I'm a psychologist, and I love to go meet with my psychologist, because even though as a psychologist, I can help you think through and resolve and solve your own issues, I can't do that effectively for myself because I'm the one that has created them to a certain degree in my own mind. Are you following that? So when I talk to somebody else and they're coming at a different level of consciousness, it's amazing how I leave that therapy session and I say to myself, wow, I see it from a whole new angle now. I hadn't thought about it that way before. I've got something new I can work on. I feel like I'm a changed person. You need to experience catharsis. You need to have an outlet to let out the tension. And the best way we can do that is by talking with a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist. Are you doing that? If not, why? Well, maybe the teacher hasn't appeared yet, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and I encourage you to really think about that path. One of the best things we can do to rest, recharge, and recovery is to release that emotional tension in a much healthier way. One of my favorite techniques to help an athlete recover faster is the walk and talk. When they say to me, let's head out for a walk, and we just have the opportunity to just cover some ground, maybe in a park-like setting, and just go for a nice walk and really just listen to them vent and listen to them share their thoughts and ideas. I often validate and empathize and encourage and support. But the walk and talk is a really powerful way to recharge. Why? You see, when we're walking, our brain has to be at a higher level of cognition, of the sympathetic nervous system. The beta waves have to be very cognizant of, is there a car coming? Is there a wild animal nearby? Is there a stick or a curb that I might trip over? And so we're thinking and processing at a higher level. And so a lot of times we can solve problems better when we're in that state. For example, runners often say, I do my best thinking when I was out for a run. And I believe that the walk and talk, being able to go for a walk and talk with somebody else, is going to help you to figure things out, to organize the brain a little bit better, to see outside perspective. One friend that I have personally will often go for an hour and a half walk. The first 45 minutes, he'll say to me, you go first. Tell me everything that's going on in your mind. I'll do that. He'll listen. And then at our turning around spot, I'll come back and I'll say, your turn. And he vents and he shares and he asks questions and I help him. And that hour and a half walk and talk can be an incredible thing for you, just the way it is for me, as I receive from going for a walk and talk with a friend, and as I help pro athletes as we go for a walk and talk together. My question for you is simply this: who would you go for a walk and talk with? And maybe even where would you go? Figure that out and get it on your calendar really soon. He was a pilot who would fly to Japan from the United States. He would stay there for a few days, then turn around and fly back. As he would do this repeatedly, I thought to myself, what a difficult job. I mean, obviously the pressure of flying a large plane for a long distance and then shifting time zones. My gosh, what time zone was he on? How does his body reset? I said to him, how do you do it? He gave me a really powerful idea that I want to share with you. It's called water therapy. You see, he said to me, I learned something from an individual I met in Japan, and he explained to me that water therapy is one of the best ways to bring homeostasis back to the body, that brings balance back to the body. So he said, I stay in hotels where there's a pool, where there's a hot tub. And he said, and I try to immerse my body in water. He said, also drink plenty of water, tons of water as well. That really helps. I've started thinking about that more and more, and I've noticed that in professional athletics, there's a real big focus on water therapy. Nearly every facility has a hot tub and a cold tub. Maybe there's a steam room. People take long, hot showers. There's a heavy emphasis on hydration. And so I say to you simply this: when you're stressed and you need to rest, recharge, recover, how quickly, where can you go to immerse yourself in water? Because I find personally that when I can get into a pool, a hot tub, maybe even a therapy pool, it's kind of not quite a hot tub, not quite the 70 degrees of a pool, but maybe about 90 degrees, very therapeutic. The more I can focus on water therapy, the more I tend to bring homeostasis back to my body, and I feel better sooner. I see it in professional athletes. And I hope I see it in you soon as well, because if you can put that page in your playbook, you'll recharge much more efficiently. Blue skies, sunshine, and warm water. That's why I love the Caribbean islands. Many professional athletes, when they get a break, they'll oftentimes leave America and go right to the Caribbean islands. Why? Well, one, it's a little bit closer to get to than if you were traveling maybe from Europe. But the idea of blue skies, sunshine, warm water, it really does something for the soul. It does something for the body. It does something for the mind. And so I'm a big fan. In fact, every year I find a 5-day, 4-night window in January where I can get away and just go down there and rest, recharge, and recover. Over the years, I've learned to just kind of find different spots. And you might say, well, Jarrod, that sounds great. I wouldn't be able to afford that. But, cheapcaribbean.com, there's a website that nearly anybody can find an affordable package that's available for them. And so I just encourage you with one of the best techniques I've ever learned, which is get to the Caribbean islands at least once a year. It does wonders for your recharge. You're tired. You have hopes. You have dreams, ambitions. You want to do more. You want to be the emotionally healthier version of yourself. You want to excel. You want to achieve. You want to be kinder. You want those relationships to thrive. But somehow, some way, you're depleted. You're struggling at times. There's an emotional fatigue, and it's something that you've got to change. I'm hoping that the many techniques I just shared with you, pages out of the playbooks of professional athletes and teams that I've worked with over the years, maybe, just maybe, there's a few of those ideas that you can actively begin to put into your life. Because if you can, your emotional energy will rise. You're going to feel better. You're going to think more optimistically. You're going to have positivity radiate from you. The energy around you is going to be noticeable. There's going to be a look in your eye, a tone of your voice, and a disposition that you convey that everyone will say, wow, he or she is thriving. And that's what I want for you. But the way to do that, you gotta learn to recharge. You gotta learn how to rest and recover like a pro. And so I'm hopeful that something I share with you here today would impact your body, mind, and soul and make you the emotionally healthiest version of yourself. Recharge, rest and recover like a pro. I wish you all the best along your journey. I'm Dr. Jarrod Spencer, sports psychologist. And for more information on me, check out my website, mindoftheathlete.com, or my social medias as well. I wish you the best along your journey. Copyright 2023, Mind of the Athlete LLC, all rights reserved.